Hello everybody, welcome back. This is Robert Smith here. Back for a new topic, and this one I think is a little bit different, and it actually got me kind of intrigued on what's going on with these bowling balls, especially the difference between asymmetricals and symmetricals. When we're talking about not just the numbers and stuff like that, but what is the actual physical thing going on with these bowling balls. So for this one, the high rev guys, I really believe might have a bigger interest in it than maybe some of the lower revs, but you never know. Maybe makes sense on both ends, but we're going to find out. So first off, though, I'd like to thank my sponsors, of course, which is Hammer Bowling, I Am Bowling, and also Vice Inserts, again, for their help and sponsorship with me on all this. So the topic goes as such. If any of you guys watched the YouTube videos, you know of a channel that's called Veritasium, and they did an unbelievable piece on the physics of bowling, the cores, the lane play, all that. You guys saw it. It was all done up at the Storm offices up in Utah, and it was really well done. I mean, it was awesome. I mean, a lot of information in this thing, but there was one thing that kind of threw me into like, well, what's going on? And it came from another one of his videos on Veritasium, which they started talking about intermediate differential. I saw that and I went, oh my gosh, that's what the bowling balls have. What is this showcasing? What is this, intermediate differential, and how is he going to explain it in, the real physics of whatever? So anyway, so they show the video and they're going through this video and they show a wing nut that is in space, and they end up spinning this thing off whatever it was attached to, and you can see it spin, and then it would wobble, and then it would flip 180 degrees, and then it would stop. And then it would wobble and flip again and stop. And it would do this over and over and over again, and it never stopped. And it got me thinking, okay, well, what is that entity of intermediate differential mean in what a bowling ball is? So, started thinking, started getting some stuff. Nick Smith showed a video, I believe, on the hazmat solid about, I don't know, a couple weeks ago or so. And he talked about his hazmat flared over the thumb hole. And I went, wait a minute, but that's a symmetrical ball. Why is that one flaring over the thumb hole when none of my asymmetricals ever get there? And then I thought about it, and it's because with an asymmetrical, when it makes that complete flare 180 degrees around the ball, the core is stopped migrating. It stops. Just like that video you're going to hopefully have seen in our cuts there, but it will actually stop its flare and hold. So to me, what's happening is that when we throw an asymmetrical bowling ball, when it goes down the lane, it's only got a full capacity of doing 1/2 flip or 1/2 flare around the ball. Whereas a symmetrical, since it doesn't have the intermediate, or it's not as strong per se, I think that thing keeps flaring on an even constant going all the way across. So with those questions being said, we can look down on the rack here, and I've got two bowling balls that I have decided that are close enough to the differential from one to the other. There's a Black Widow core, which as we know is an asym and an unbelievable core, and a hazmat solid. Both have very high differentials. The hazmat has an 0.55. The Black Widow, I believe, is an 0.56. So one has an intermediate, the other one doesn't, but the differentials are exactly the same. So this, to me now, I think could be a very good showing of what we have on the back end of all these bowling balls, what a symmetrical can offer on the back end versus what an asymmetrical can offer on the back end. Again, I think this is going to be leaning a little bit towards my higher rev players, but hopefully we're going to see what's going on and how the actual physics of the ball in motion is working versus just, oh, okay, these are the numbers and this is what we're kind of hoping it does. So I've thrown a few shots. I've resanded my bowling balls down to 360 grit right on the back flares where I know this ball is going to get around to, as I walk behind you, Chris. And we're going to see a difference on where these flare rings go. So the first one I'm going to throw is the Black Widow. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get on this one. I'm actually going to bang on it. I'm going to make sure that this rev rate's pushing at least 570, 580. And I want to see where the flare gets to on the back side. And if it does what I've seen it do, you're going to notice that those back flare rings will stop short of the mass bias. Hopefully I haven't sat too long. Okay, that's good enough. I'm not worried about where it's going. I just want to get revs on this thing. So, Chris, come on over. And what we're going to see here now, if it did this right, is now you come back around and you can see where my back flare rings are. And if you look, they stopped right there. They did not get to the thumb. If anything, they're at least 2 inches from the edge of the thumb. But you can see it stopped shorter there, and the flare rings got much tighter when it got up to this point. So again, when you're looking at that video, that asim kind of makes sense when you see what an intermediate differential does to an object. So now, this one, pin placements are roughly the same, both pins up. Again, differentials are the same, so the flare should do what it's supposed to, but as you can see with the asim, it stopped. So now with this one, same shot, same revs. This flare should look a lot different. And if you can make it out there, you can actually hear it clip something on the back. So, Chris, come on over, let's take a look. There we go. They're pretty faint there, but they're right through there. There you go. So that thing is going right into my thumb hole. At least 2, maybe even 3 rotations are hitting my thumb. Okay, so again, why is it doing that where this line is coming in and hitting the thumb? And then why is it doing this where it's stopping well short of it? Even with the pin placements being roughly in the same spot. Yeah, they're about 1/4 of an inch off, but you got the idea of what's going on. Why is it doing that? So if there's anybody watching out there looking at this that maybe has a better physics degree than I do, just making up my stuff as I go along, but this totally makes sense now why some of my pin-up strong asims actually tend to stop and flatten out in the back. It's because they lose their flare. Once that asymmetrical core has made its 180-degree flip, it stops. It wants to be stable there, and it won't go anymore, especially considering we're only blowing on 60 feet, so our distance and time is limited, so we don't have a chance for that thing to maybe try to flip back if it could, but it goes and stops. So for the high rev guys, I don't know if you guys see it, but relative to some of the symmetricals that you've thrown, I bet you some of those symmetricals have a lot more back end motion than the asims do. I notice it, you know, to me, symmetricals have a more keep coming around the corner motion. Some of my asims, I like them when I need them to kind of stop a little bit, but that seems to be where they limit and stop for me on that. So again, this is what I'm seeing difference-wise between asymmetrical and symmetricals, is that when you're talking about flare, and especially when you got a lot of it, those flares will stop on an asim because the core has made its 180-degree flip and it stops, whereas a symmetrical core, since there's no asymmetry to it, it'll just keep flaring consistently, and there's no stopping as it goes around and through. Pretty much the only reason that symmetrical won't keep flaring is because of friction. And if there was no friction, that thing, I would imagine, would just keep flaring and never stop until it just decided to run out. But yeah, so in a nutshell, that's my video for this time. Again, if anybody's got good explanations, you know, maybe, you know, some tips on it, please go ahead, put them in the comment box. This one, again, this one intrigued me. A lot of physics involved. The numbers, I'm I'm not going to hunt them down too much, but when you're talking about physical motion and what that thing's doing, take a look at your asyms and your symmetricals with the same diffs. See which one flares more. You may surprise yourself which one does. So, all right, guys, again, thank you to Hammer, I Am Bowling, and Vice Inserts for everything. And until the next one, have a good one. Thank you.